Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
I think you love me, but you especially love the size of your boss, do not you? Jim, please stop. This is wrong. Please do not say such things. I do not love anyone but you. Okay? Becky, see you Monday evening at 7 o'clock. I did not want to say I loved her or even say goodbye. I did not want to hear those words from Becky again, so I just hung up abruptly. I threw the phone on the table, leaned back, and stared into space. I really did not want to meet Becky. I was sure that it would be torture. But perhaps after our conversation, I would be able to move on. I was going to let Becky know that divorce was inevitable and tell her to start preparing for it. I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. Mom looked into the kitchen from behind the doorframe. Are you okay? Yes, Mom. Max and I will be back Monday morning, and I will meet Becky that evening. Max stood up when Mom entered the kitchen. She leaned over and scratched him behind the ears. Then Mom noticed the bag of dog food we bought, leaning against the cabinet. Are you hungry, boy? Max's tail swished and drummed against the table leg. Mom took a bowl out of the cupboard and poured food into it. She looked at me. Jim, if you want to get through this and stay with Becky, you need to get ready. You will have to put aside your pride and open your heart to forgive the person who has made a terrible mistake. I do not know why Becky did what she did, but I could tell from her voice that she was in a lot of pain. Obviously, she realizes her mistake and will. I beg you for forgiveness. I understand how bad you feel right now, but everything depends on you. You must decide whether to destroy your marriage or try to save it. You were put in a terrible position, but now you are in control of the situation. Just be patient and try to make decisions that you will not regret later. I know, Mom, but I cannot imagine how I can forgive her. Mom looked at me with deep sadness in her eyes but did not answer. Many people have found themselves in the same situation but did not leave their spouses. I think they loved them so much that they decided to try again. Max stood next to his mother, looking at her expectantly, as if reminding her that his food had already been poured. His tail moved so much it seemed as if his whole body was swaying. When Mom put the bowl on the floor, Max attacked the food as if he had not eaten for several days. Apparently, he did not like fast food as much as I thought he did. Underscore 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 underscore. Becky. I woke up on Sunday morning, but it seemed like I had not slept a wink. I am meeting him tomorrow night, and he wants me to explain everything. He said that I should tell the truth. I know one thing, tomorrow I cannot tell him the truth. The truth is too crazy, and Jim will never forgive me. I do not know how I got this far. It was like a path to destruction, in which I had no option to choose any other route. Now I need to figure out what to say to Jim to minimize the damage. I know he loves me. Hopefully, if I play it right, he will stay and eventually forgive me. Looking back, it all seems crazy. I lied on my resume to get the job I wanted. This was the job I was meant to do. I love developing advertising campaigns, and I am good at it. In 2 years at Hartford, I proved this. But lying on my resume turned out to be a bad idea. My boss, Ken, did a background check on me a few months after I arrived and found that I did not go to Stanford and did not have a master's degree. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. Becky, come into my office, please. It was about 4 months after I arrived at Hartford, and the working day was almost over. Ken was furious. What on earth, Becky? I was going to promote you, but for this, I needed to confirm your data. I do not know how we missed this during admissions, but you did not go to Stanford, right? I instantly realized that I was caught. You do not have a master's degree, do you? The shock on my face said it all. No, Ken, sorry, but I lied on my resume. I was not considered at all for the position I wanted, so I embellished it a little. A little? You indicated a master's degree from a prestigious university. This is not even close to true. I panicked. I was sure my career was over, and I was about to be escorted out of the building. Ken, I may not have that degree, but you have to admit that I helped develop the most successful campaign in years. Oh my God, Becky, you may be right, but do you understand what will happen when I tell Roger that you were hired under false pretenses? Most likely, I will be fired. The damage to the firm's reputation will likely cost us both our jobs. I started crying. I love this job so much. I was happy to build my reputation, and now it was all falling apart. Ken, I am sorry. I do not know what to say. Do not say anything, Becky. Just get out of my sight. I need to think about what to do next. I do not know what to do. Just go home. Underscore 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 underscore. I left that night in despair. I literally could not help myself knowing that my job would almost certainly end and my reputation would be irrevocably destroyed. Everything I had worked so hard for was going to waste. Becky, are you okay? You look like your dog died. I did not know what to say, so I just told Jim that Hartford was going to downsize, and I might lose my job. Jim, as always, was supportive and cheerful. Sometimes it was terribly annoying. I was worried about everything, and Jim just lived as if everything always worked out for the best. I was not even sure if I should go to work the next day, but I went anyway. Ken did not call me in, so I just continued with my duties. I was sure that the axe would fall at any moment. Every time the phone rang, I thought it was HR calling to hand me my termination notice. About 3 days later, Ken sent me a message asking me to come to his office at the end of the day. I was sure that I was finished. Becky, I have looked at every possible way out of this situation, and I do not see a way to get rid of your lying without damaging my career. So, I am considering not. Ken said, I am not going to tell Roger or HR about your lies. I felt so relieved to know that maybe this nightmare would not happen to me. Ken, if you can find a way to put this behind you, I will be forever grateful, I said. Ken replied seriously, Becky, if anyone ever finds out that I knew about your lies and did not fire you, I will be fired immediately. My reputation will be at stake if I allow this situation to continue. I promised him, Ken, you will not regret it. I will be the best campaign designer this firm has ever had. Ken warned, Becky, this will not be free for you. I will not risk my reputation just like that. I asked hesitantly, compensation? What do you want? Ken, do you want me to give you part of my salary? No, Becky, you would have to give me half of your salary for it to matter to me. I was taken aback. And how do you explain this to Jim? No, I want something more personal. Something you have that will give me pleasure. I was completely puzzled, but the confusion did not last long. Becky, can I look at your breasts? He asked. I was absolutely shocked and replied firmly, no way. He said that he would not risk his career for nothing, but he might be willing to take the risk if I agreed to give him a few personal favors. I stood there, not believing my ears. Come on, Becky, you are a beautiful woman, and I have been fantasizing about how you could please me. I am a plus-size man, and you will love it. I still could not find the words. I knew that if I sent him away, my job and possibly my entire career would be over. But would it save my career if I agreed? He was over 50, but he was in good shape and looked good. In fact, I would go so far as to say that most women would find him attractive. Over the course of several months at work, I noticed that he was somewhat arrogant and self-important, but this was not uncommon in the advertising industry. Here, you have to be quite aggressive to get ahead. I am embarrassed to admit it, but I pleased Ken that night. I thought it would be a one-time situation. I will do this, and that will be the end of it. But I was wrong. I took the path of the biggest mistake of my life. The next day, Ken behaved completely normally. But a couple of days later, he called me into his office again. It was during the working day, and I decided it must be about work. Over the past few days, I had hoped that the resume incident was behind me, but it had not given me peace of mind. Ken said, "Becky, I really liked what we did on Tuesday night. I understand that this was a surprise to you, but you did well and did a great job." I winced at his words. "I am sure you understand that it will not end here," he paused. "I want more. So that you do not get nervous, I will explain exactly what I want. I want intimacy with you, not just pleasure." I expected something like this, but I was still shocked. "Ken, that will never happen." "Wait, Becky, let me finish. I want one night a week for 2 months. I know you are worried about cheating on your husband, but he will never know. You know, I am a big size, and women have said I know how to please. I am sure you will like it too. You are a very pretty woman. Ken, I am not going to sleep with you, and no, I will not like it. Do you think I will enjoy cheating on my husband? Do not rush to conclusions, Becky. Your husband will never know about this," he said, pausing. "Ken, I will not do this. Listen, think about this for a week. I know how much you love your job, but you screwed up and put me in a difficult position. Your work in advertising is really promising, and I am ready to help you. I am sure you can make a name for yourself in this industry, but your mistake will cost you 8 times intimacy, to be exact. Ken, I cannot do this. You decide for yourself. Becky, come next Thursday and be prepared to stay late. Tell your husband you have a mandatory management meeting that evening and you will be back around 8. Or pack your things and leave this Friday. The choice is yours. If you come on Monday, I will know that you agreed." I came home that night and could not hide my emotions from Jim, so I told him that the layoffs at work were confirmed and I might be laid off. Jim encouraged me again and said that I should let my boss know. I knew that I was ready to do anything, even work for less money, and yet I still could not believe what I had done. The following Thursday night. Jim, it was Monday evening when I knocked on the door of my house. It just did not feel right to walk in without knocking. While I was waiting for Becky to open the door, I looked across the street and saw Stan and Bridget looking out of their window. Suddenly, the door burst open. "Jim, why are you knocking?" "Come in," Becky said. I chuckled for a moment. "Yeah, I think Stan and Bridget are wondering too," I said, pointing at them across the street. "To hell with them," Becky replied. "They are just curious." I thought maybe they were just worried about their neighbors, but I said nothing. Becky closed the door, and we looked at each other in silence for a few seconds. Becky stepped forward quickly and tried to hug me, but I raised my hand to stop her. She stepped back. I noticed tears beginning to appear in her eyes. I said, "I made crispy chicken. Do you want to try some?" Crispy chicken was my favorite dish, and its aroma filled the whole house. I knew Becky was trying to distract me. "No, thanks, Becky. Let's just get this out of the way." I saw a couple of tears roll down her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away, as if she did not want to acknowledge them. I walked over to the couch and motioned for Becky to sit in the chair. "Jim, I am so sorry for what I did. I wish you did not see this," she said. These first words drove me crazy. "Yes, of course. So you can keep having an affair with him and betray me, right?" This stunned her, and now tears flowed freely. I, too, felt tears welling up in my eyes, but my anger allowed them to simply roll down my cheeks. I stood up, went to the kitchen, pulled out a box of tissues, returned to the living room, and handed them to Becky. "Becky, how could you do this to me?" "To us? I thought we were following your plan." I pointed toward the kitchen where our family plan hung on the wall. "I did not expect this, to have an affair with your boss." "Oh, Jim, it is not like that. This should not have happened. This should never have happened." "Then why, Becky? Explain this to me. Did you fall in love with him, or did you just get so caught up that you could not control yourself?" It seemed Becky realized the moment of truth had arrived. She began to stutter, trying to find the words. Now she was almost crying. "So, what did you do?" I asked. "Yes, I lied, Jim. It only happened once. When you caught us, he said he would give me a big promotion if I did that. And you know how much I wanted to get promoted." Suddenly, my mind was filled with rage, almost like that first night here in this same room. I knew she was lying. I saw them together when I caught them. They were clearly close, and I knew she was lying about those management meetings on Thursdays. Becky, do you think I am so stupid that I cannot put two and two together? I shouted with venom in my voice. No, Jim, please believe me. You have to believe me, and this will never happen again, she sobbed. Please, I am so sorry. I need you to forgive me so we can make things right. So we can get back to our plan, your plan. I looked at her and said, to hell with your plan, Becky. I got up. I came here to hear the truth, and you are trying to feed me nonsense. I am leaving your plan. I am disappearing from your life. Find yourself someone else for your plan. I headed toward the door. Becky rushed toward me, but I pushed her away hard enough to make her fall. She landed on her bottom in the middle of the living room. She was not hurt, although I did not care at the time. I ran out of the house and headed to my truck. It was a repeat of last week's events, but this time Becky was not going to let me go. She ran out of the house, screaming for me not to leave. I did not care that she was screaming. I was going to leave. When I got into the truck, Becky disappeared behind it. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw her lying in the driveway behind my car. Damn it. To leave, I would have to run over her. In my rage, I considered it for a moment, but I did not put the car into motion. I just sat there for a minute and then got out of the truck. Becky, get up, or I will really run you over, I said. Becky looked at me pleadingly, her eyes full of desperation. Jim, if you come back into the house, I will tell you the whole truth. I swear, everything, down to the last detail. I think this will destroy our marriage, but I will tell you everything. I stood over Becky and looked down at her. I had come here to find out what happened, so I pulled myself together and agreed. Okay, Becky, get up and let's go into the house. Jim, are you sure you want to hear this? We sat down again. I was on the sofa, and she was in the chair. Should we just agree that I made a huge mistake and try to find a way to fix it? This will never happen again. Do the details really matter? I got angry again. She broke my heart, destroyed our dreams, and acted like it could all just disappear. The desire to strangle her returned. Instead, I swept everything off the living room table onto the floor. Magazines, 2 candy bowls, a box of tissues, and other things flew in different directions. No, Becky. Speak now, or I will leave forever. You have 10 seconds before I am out the door. And this time, I will run over your 5th place if you jump in front of my truck. Jim, you have to promise to at least consider staying with me. What I did was terrible, but I cannot live without you. You belong with me. Becky started, and then she began to talk everything down to the last detail. After about half a minute, she stopped crying. Her face became emotionless. Apparently, the shock of the story had made her indifferent. She told me how it all started, how she lied on her resume, and how Ken pressured her for a night. For 2 months. She then explained why things continued after those 2 months. It was almost the end of those 2 months, she said. Only a couple of weeks left. Ken and I did this on the couch in his office. As always, I was completely without clothes. Then Roger came in. Roger was the head of the company where Becky worked. He looked shocked at what we were doing and fired us both on the spot. I was silent, but Ken began to persuade him that we were valuable employees and that our departure would harm the company. Then Ken, that arrogant and foolish man, suggested that I please Roger, that I please him. Then he said, "She's great at it." I could not believe he was offering this to Roger and that Roger might be interested in it. But he was interested. I made Roger feel good that night. The next week, on what was supposed to be my last Thursday, I walked into Ken's office. Ken and Roger were sitting at his table. Ken looked up, smiled, and said, "Becky, Roger and I were just talking. He knows what I am getting, and he wants more than just pleasure." Then Ken stood up. "See you tomorrow," he said, walking past me to the door. "Becky, why do you not take your clothes off for the big guy?" Roger was less assertive and probably would not have dared to sleep with me, but apparently Ken orchestrated everything. I looked at Roger. He smiled as I began to take off my clothes. After we slept together, Roger said he wanted to do it again soon and that he thought I was enjoying my encounters with Ken. He spoke as if I was a willing participant and that we would do this regularly. At that moment, I realized what was expected of me and who I had become. I was an office girl of easy virtue, at least for two top managers of the company. Becky went silent and just looked at me as if she expected me to ask questions. Her face remained impassive. I was filled with anger and pain. How could you let this happen? When did this all start? About 5 months after I started working at Harford, she answered dispassionately. Her lack of emotion was starting to scare me. What was going on in her head? 5 months after starting work? Seriously? You have been working there for almost 2.5 years. Have you been sleeping with one or the other of these men once a week for the last 2 years? That means you have been with someone other than me more than 100 times during our marriage. This figure stunned me. I thought Becky would really realize the extent of her mistakes and would snap out of it. But this did not happen. She looked at me, still emotionless, and said, "Yes, I guess." Becky's actions were inappropriate for the situation. At first, she was upset and almost could not control herself. Now she acted like a robot, as if something inside her was broken. I was shocked, too. I am shocked that my wife really turned out to be an office girl of easy virtue. Damn, Becky. I cannot believe you could do this. I was interrupted by a loud knock on the door. Becky acted like she did not hear, and I just sat there. I did not know who it was but thought, let them go. Then the knocking was repeated, much louder and more insistent. Oklahoma City Police. Open the door! Came a loud, angry voice from the other side of the door. Crap. Stan and Bridget had called the police. Perhaps they could be understood. Becky lying under my truck must have looked pretty crazy. I opened the door. We received a call about disturbances. In this house? May we come in? There is no disturbance here, officer. I noticed how he glanced over my shoulder and saw my zombified wife sitting on the sofa. She was staring into space. Then I noticed things scattered all over the living room floor. Everything looked a mess. Is this your wife, sir? We would like to talk to her. I let them in, and after we introduced ourselves, I went into the kitchen to speak privately with one of the officers. The other stayed with Becky in the living room. I explained the situation without going into details and said that I was angry but that I would never touch Becky. I wish I could, I added with a half-hearted laugh, trying to lighten the mood. The officer just looked at me over the notepad where he was taking notes and did not smile. We walked back into the living room. I looked at Becky. She talked to the officer and seemed to come to her senses a little. I noticed that a sad look appeared in her eyes again, and tears began to flow down her cheeks. Sir, ma'am, we have no reason to arrest either of you, but this situation could be dangerous. We have seen situations like this get out of control often. Then he looked straight at me. Sir, I ask you to leave and not return here before tomorrow. Can you do that? A few minutes later, the officers watched as I got into my truck and drove away. I headed back to the hotel. I needed to take Max for a walk. Becky called about half an hour after I was taken away from my own house. Sadness was clear in her voice again. Jim, I am sorry you had to listen to all of this. I am sorry for everything that happened. Everything got out of control. We need to finish our conversation. Can you come in the morning? No, Becky. I have work. Do you have work, too? Are you going to quit? I do not know, Jim. I do not know what to do. Quit. Do you promise to come back if I quit? Becky, do not do anything hasty. We need time. I need time to think about everything. I thought that I needed to get away from this situation as quickly as possible. I wondered how quickly I could finalize my divorce, but something did not seem right. Becky, we can talk in a few days. I need time to think it over. Jim, please do not let this be the end for us. Do me one favor, do not sleep with them anymore. We will talk later. Becky wrote to me every evening, begging me to come home and telling me she loved me. On Thursday evening, she wrote that there was no management meeting. I realized she was trying to say that she did not sleep with her boss anymore. I wondered how much pressure she was under and how she resisted. I responded, thanking her for letting me know and telling her that I was heading to Kansas City to visit family over the weekend. She replied that she hoped we could talk again that weekend. I said, "It is too early." I never saw my lawyer Bob again. I do not know what was holding me back, but I had an uneasy feeling. I knew there was more to the story, and I needed to find out. Besides divorcing Becky, I wanted to find a way to get back at Ken and Roger. I had not yet decided whether it would be a physical confrontation or something else, but I knew that they would get what they deserved before the end of this story. I texted my mom that we were coming over for the weekend, and she was not surprised when only Max and I showed up. "How are you guys doing?" Mom asked when we entered the house. "It could be better, Mom, but we are holding on," I replied. Dad sat in his chair and watched the evening baseball game. I noticed it was not a Royals game. I think my mother did not tell him about my situation, and he still had no idea about anything. "I left your dinner in the oven. Now I will take it out and feed you," said my mother. I sat down at the table and began to help myself to the lasagna that she placed in front of me. "How are you and Becky doing, Jim?" Mom asked. I spoke to her mother this week, but she does not seem to know anything. "Jean did not mention that you were having any problems." "Well, we talked, but the police dispersed us before we could finish." I noticed the shock on my mom's face and quickly added, "No, I did not hit Becky." After that, I explained what had happened, although I did not mention that Becky was involved with her boss's boss. I heard the front door open and Kyle's voice calling out to Dad. "Jimbo!" Kyle said loudly, entering the kitchen. "Glad you are here. I need a drinking buddy today. Tracy is with a friend, so it is good that you came." Mom was putting food in Max's bowl and looked at us. "You boys, no nonsense today. If anything happens, I will punish you both. I am still your mother, you know." We arrived around 9 p.m., and Shooters was full of people. I had not been here since my student days, but I was surprised that I still recognized some of the people. We played a couple of games of pool and finally found a free booth. Kyle drank his beer in one gulp. I pulled mine, and there was still a full bottle on the table. "You have always been a weakling," Kyle said. "Never could compete with me." I understood the challenge and drained my beer. He knew that I could drink a lot, perhaps more than him, and tried to get drunk first. "Hello, guys. So, that is the meeting." I looked up. It was Tracy and her friend. "Can I come join you?" "Jim, this is my friend Cindy. We were roommates in college our freshman year. We moved so they could sit down." They were dressed very elegantly. Cindy, like Tracy, was tall with blonde hair and a noticeable figure accentuated by her dress. "We just had dinner at the Rockery. They have great steaks," Cindy said. "You need to catch up," Kyle added. Kyle ordered shots for everyone as the girls caught up. Kyle and I were just starting to get drunk. Cindy was flirtatious and often touched my arm. It was nice for me to just go out and forget myself for a while. I responded in kind. "These shots are called kisses," Tracy said as the next order arrived. "These are two different flavors that mix well," she added with a wink. There were 2 shots on the table, one green and one yellow. Tracy and Kyle each drank one of a different color and then kissed passionately. The more passionate the kiss, the better the taste, she winked again. "Now it is our turn," Cindy said, smiling. We drank, and she kissed me passionately. "The taste is really great," I said, smiling and enjoying the moment. I do not remember how many of these kisses we did, but I got very drunk and received many kisses. Waking up from the hangover haze, I felt a pleasant sensation in my groin. It seemed like someone was giving me pleasure. It was incredible, and I was suddenly very alert. I looked down and saw Cindy attending to me. It felt so good that I relaxed and watched her movements for a few moments. She was clearly experienced. The morning sun was shining into the bedroom, and I realized that I was in an unfamiliar room. "Is this Cindy's house?" I tried to remember the events of last evening. Looking down, I saw her continuing to please me with obvious enjoyment. My head began to clear, and I finally started to think. Cindy, what am I doing here? How did I end up here? Desperately trying to remember the events of last night, I asked. Rose a little higher, she whispered. No, you were a gentleman, or rather you just passed out. But I am patient, and I knew that in the morning you would be ready. She smiled and leaned toward me again. Cindy, stop it, I said. I cannot. I am married. I know you are married, but let us forget about it for a while. She climbed on top, and at that moment, looking at her beauty and grace, I simply froze. She started moving, and it gave me incredible sensations. It was amazing. I leaned back, enjoying the moment. What a morning! This charming girl with her radiant smile and graceful figure was the embodiment of passion. She seemed completely captivated by what was happening, and I could not help but respond in kind. We spent some time together, enjoying the closeness and harmony of our movements. If she was looking for emotion and tenderness, I was ready to give everything to meet her expectations. We plunged into an atmosphere of mutual pleasure. Then, feeling slightly tired, I dozed off again. When I woke up once more, I realized that she was ready to continue. Her attention and energy were amazing. I felt that I would remember this morning for a long time. We enjoyed each other, plunging into a passionate dance where every minute was filled with emotion and warmth. When it was over, I was fully aware of where I was. Without the cloud of desire, I began to feel remorse. Cindy, that was fantastic, but we should not have done it. I am married, and I am not cheating, I said. Relax, Jim. As I said, I knew you were married, but you are a charming guy, and you gave me a great time, Cindy replied. Oh, that is enough, Jim. Kyle and Tracy told me you were having problems in your marriage and suggested that maybe you needed this. This made me angry. Oh, I see. So they asked you to do me a favor? No, it is not like that. They said you are a good guy, and if I like you, then I should not worry about you being married. They said you were getting a divorce. I just looked at her, this beautiful woman. She smiled at me. Jim, you are a good guy. I had a great time last night and this morning. I hope you did too. Cindy, I am not sure I should have done this. You were amazing, one of the best. But Cindy put a finger to my lips to silence me. Jim, I had a great time. If you leave your wife, I hope we can do this again. I put my number in your phone last night. Call me if things do not work out between you and your wife. I smiled at her. Thank you for a wonderful time, Cindy. I saw my phone on the nightstand. I called an Uber. I had 10 minutes before the car arrived. I got dressed. If my marriage ends, I would love to meet you again, to get to know you better. After those words, I walked out the door. It was only about 7 o'clock in the morning when the Uber dropped me off at my parents' house. Kyle's truck was parked in the driveway. Apparently, he had spent the night here because I was close to the shooter's bar, and he had been drinking too much. When I entered the house, I saw that he was sleeping on the sofa. I shook his shoulder to wake him up. Kyle, what the heck happened last night? I mean, Cindy and all that? Kyle squinted, trying to fully wake up. Tell me, big guy, he finally answered. You two looked great when you got into the taxi. I got angry, and my voice rose. Kyle, you set everything up. You arranged for me to sleep with Cindy. I almost screamed. I noticed that Kyle was not looking at me but somewhere past me, with a blank expression on his face. I was about to say something else, but then I looked in the direction of his gaze. My mother was standing in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room, with an angry look on her face. Oh, no, was all I could say. Kyle arranged this all? Mom, I do not know where he found this Cindy, but she was amazing and very proactive, and I was drunk. Mom and I were sitting at the kitchen table, drinking strong coffee, which I badly needed. Mom saw that I was upset and embarrassed. Jim, you do not need to explain anything to me. You are a grown man, she said. Then she paused and looked at me over her cup. I know you and Becky have problems, but wait. I suddenly interrupted her, staring into space. Then I looked at my mother again. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you, but I think I realized something. Mom looked at me with curiosity. This is something that has been bothering me for a long time, ever since Becky told her story. Remember how I said she lied on her resume, and when her boss found out, he blackmailed her into having an intimate relationship? Yes, she nodded, but I think I just realized what really happened. Mom, I know this sounds crazy, but I think her boss did not find out about the lie on her resume until 4 months after she started working. I think he knew this from the very beginning. I think he knew before he hired her, and he hired her anyway so he could use it against her later. I paused for her to process my words. He gave her the job, told her how wonderful she was, how well she was doing, and talked about a promotion. He knew her career was very important to her. Then, he suddenly discovered a mistake on her resume, just to get leverage over her. Jim, this is crazy. Do you really think that is how it happened? I am sure, Mom. I would bet anything that it was so. This does not take Becky's guilt away, but it does change my perspective on the situation a little. I was silent for a minute, thinking about what I had just said. Jim, you... Mom, I need to talk to Becky again. They set you up. It was their plan. It was Sunday evening. Max, Becky, and I were in the living room of our house. I sat in a chair opposite Becky, who was on the couch. I began to tell her about my suspicions. Do you really think so? This sounds crazy. Yes, you told me that shortly before the end of 2 months with Ken, Roger found you and then made it clear that everything would continue. It looks like they both set it up. I think this was their plan all along. They knew you could not stop it once Roger caught you and demanded things. Jim, this is almost unbelievable. Who does a background check 4 months after they hire someone? They should have known about your deception from the very beginning. Becky's shoulders slumped, her lower lip trembled, and her eyes filled with tears. Jim, I was so stupid. I allowed my pride and ambition. She could not finish her sentence and started crying loudly. I let her cry. Max jumped onto the couch and stood next to Becky, looking into her eyes. She hugged him, continuing to cry. I was silent. After a few moments, Max lay down next to her and rested his head on her leg. I could feel how he empathized with her. He knew she was suffering, and it hurt him. To be honest, it hurt me too. As much as I wanted to hate this woman for what she did to us, it was painful to see her suffer. When this all started, I took Max with me as if he were my dog, my property. But I knew that he and Becky were truly best friends. This dog loved her unconditionally. He loved her as if none of this had ever happened because, for him, it really had never happened. I wanted my love to be as unconditional as Max's. For the first time since all this started, I felt sorry for her. It still shocked me that my innocent wife, who I thought could not be involved with 2 of her bosses, had been through this. But now I was sure she was really targeted by these 2 scoundrels. Suddenly, my path forward with Becky was not so clear anymore. But I knew I would get my revenge on those 2 idiots. Well, I will not have to deal with them anymore. Jim, I quit last Friday. Last week, Ken brought up our management meetings again, and I knew it would never happen again. So, on Friday, I came and quit. Becky was already sobbing out loud. Please, Jim, do not leave me. I know you probably hate me now, but I need you. Please do not leave me. Okay, Becky. I do not know what will happen to us in the long term, but tomorrow I will come back here and sleep in the guest room. We need to figure out how to get revenge on those 2. We can go see my lawyer next week and see if he thinks we can sue. Becky's eyes lit up, and she looked straight at me. Oh my God, Jim, are you serious? Thank you. I promise to make amends. You will not regret me coming back. Becky smiled. I did not say I would be back forever, but I will come back and try to figure everything out. Jim, can Max stay with me tonight? I missed you both so much. I stood up and walked over to Becky. Leaning over, I kissed the top of her head, then bent down and scratched Max behind the ears. See you tomorrow evening. Oh my God, Jim was returning. It was late Monday, and I was delighted. I had already cleaned the house and went to the store. The roast was in the oven. I also got my hair cut and my nails done. It felt like I was getting ready for our first date. I know, he said, it might not be for long, but I did not want to think about it. Jim might have been upset, but I was hopeful. I thought about all my preparations, but I did not care. I wanted him to understand how important this day was to me. I planned to start unobtrusively. I would let him sort things out, but I would make sure he had a bottle of Fat Tire. He had recently said it was his new favorite beer. Next, I wanted to make sure dinner included all of his favorite foods. Then, I wanted him to know that I still loved him. I prayed that he would not reject me. I did not know if I could fix everything. Jim was a traditional man. When we got married, he said he did not care if I worked. He wanted to take care of me and have children as soon as possible. Then, I wanted to build a career before we had children. Now, all I wanted was Jim back. I still saw our common future together with our children. Jim was the man I wanted by my side, a provider, a protector, and a good partner. But I had ruined everything because I wanted to get everything at once and was willing to lie to get it. Now, I did not have a job, and I was not sure if I still had a husband. But I had one trump card. I had a new plan. That evening, Jim knew that I had done everything to please him, but he did not show it. At dinner, Jim said, "We have an appointment with my lawyer." Jim, I did not know you had a lawyer. I felt tears fill my eyes, realizing why he might need one. Becky, I did meet with him about us, but if we contact him about the lawsuit, he said he cannot represent me in the divorce case. I did not know what to say. I just looked at Jim, feeling tears rolling down my cheeks. Becky, please, let us tackle one issue at a time. We will talk to the lawyer tomorrow, and then you and I can talk things over. I wiped my tears. I did not want this evening to become difficult, so I tried to smile. We are having strawberry cake for dessert, I said. White sponge cake with liquid strawberry jelly soaked into the cake layer, topped with a light vanilla glaze. This was another one of Jim's favorite desserts. I did not care that my intentions were obvious. All that mattered was that he seemed to enjoy the cake. Becky, thank you for a great dinner and company. I have to go to my room. I have to get up early tomorrow. He got up from the table. I jumped up. Jim, why didn't you go to our room? I have new lingerie. I think you will like it, and then you can enjoy me. Becky, that is not why I came back, and I do not think it is a good idea. But maybe if there was a desk there, I would bend you over it. The insult was so unusual for Jim. I was so shocked that I felt like I had been physically hit. I could hardly speak. Jim, please do not say such things. Tears rolled down my cheeks again. We stood and looked at each other for a while. Becky, I am sorry for those words. It was cruel. Then he turned around and went upstairs to the room he now called his own. God, I hurt this man terribly. I went to our bedroom alone. It was good to see you again, Bob. A couple of weeks had passed since our first meeting when we discussed my situation and possible divorce. This is my wife, Becky, I said. Nice to meet you, Becky, Bob said and shook her hand. He motioned for us to sit opposite him at his old table. There were tall stacks of files on the table, and he removed one of them so that Becky would not be disturbed. The situation has changed a little, and we need advice, I said. Jim, I cannot advise Becky if I am representing you in a divorce proceeding, Bob said. As I said yesterday on the phone, I would like you to give us advice on another matter. Is there something we can discuss with you that is not divorce-related? Yes, I think it is possible. But if you decide to move forward with your divorce, you will have to hire another lawyer. It is not a problem. We are here to discuss possible intimate harassment and get your advice regarding the claim. I let Becky tell you what happened. Becky told her story, and then I added my suspicions that they knew about it. All along, I thought those men knew she had falsified her resume even before Hartford hired her. I think they did this on purpose. Bob nodded. Yes, most likely it was intentional. It looks that way. Do you think we have grounds for a claim? I asked. It would be great to make them pay for what they did. Yes, definitely, Bob replied. But first and foremost, you need to think about Becky's vulnerability. If we move forward, everything that happened to Becky will become public. To succeed, they will need to understand that we are willing to go all the way, revealing everything. I looked at Becky. There was a pained expression on her face, but she did not say anything. Okay, Bob. We will discuss this among ourselves and make a decision. Jim, Becky, this is much more serious than just a lawsuit, Bob said. What they did was a crime. They have committed many criminal offenses and should be arrested. Crime? I asked. Yes, Bob confirmed. Blackmail, intimate harassment, coercion, extortion, that is just part of it. It is illegal to solicit nights from an employee for any reason. They should be arrested for the crimes they committed. Do you think they can be arrested? I asked. Yes, definitely, Bob said. If the police can prove they knew Becky falsified her resume before they hired her, it will not be hard. And if not, they will most likely pursue the case anyway. Wow, I had not thought about that, I said. Becky and I sat stunned. Of course, if they are arrested, it will become public knowledge, Bob said. Becky's name could be disgraced when the media finds out about this. Technically, the victim's name should remain anonymous, but this is rarely observed. Bob fell silent, letting us digest the information. Becky and I looked at each other and did not say a word. You need a little time to think things over and decide what to do next. I, of course, recommend that you report this to the police and make these scoundrels face the punishment they deserve. It must be taken into account that this may not be the first time they have used this trick. These are predators and will continue to prey on their victims until they are brought to justice. Becky and I walked out of Bob's office in silence. Everything turned out to be much more serious than we thought. As an abused man, I wanted the worst possible retribution for these two. But that meant the truth about Becky would be known to everyone, family, friends, former colleagues. Everyone would know what happened. The next morning, when I went downstairs, I saw Becky already sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. Good morning, I said. Jim, I have thought about this a lot. For me, the solution turned out to be quite simple. I cannot let them get away with it and put other women in the same danger. I want to go to the police. Becky and I met with Don again that same day. We told him we wanted to file a claim and talk to the police. We gave statements to detectives that same day. They were very interested in our story. A couple of days later, we received a call from a detective whom we had not seen before. He was from the Intimate Crimes Unit and suggested that Becky go undercover at Hartford with a recording device. Underscore 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 underscore. Hi, Becky. It is good to see you again. Hi, Ken. How are you? I carefully applied my makeup and put on a light dress that ended just above my knees. It was difficult, but we hoped to use Ken's arrogance against him. Ken, I miss working at Hartford. Would you consider the possibility of me returning? I do not know. Becky, your attitude will have to change a lot. We are still taking a risk by hiring you. You lied on your resume to get this job. I know, Ken, but I need this job, and I miss. I stopped mid-sentence, hoping that he would take the bait. Are you and Jim still together? Becky nodded. Ken grinned. The scoundrel seemed to relish the thought that Jim would agree to such terms. Becky, if you come back, you will have to attend our management meetings on Thursdays. Do you both understand this? Ken smiled. I tried to look hesitant. Ken, I am not sure. I do not think my... Becky, your husband now knows what happens on Thursdays. You would not be here if you were not going to get back to me having a night with your sweet body. And he knows that too, does not he? I nodded again. I could not believe his confidence, although I probably could have guessed it was limitless. I lowered my head and nodded modestly, as if I had no other choice. Come to terms with it, Ken, did you know this whole time? I spoke softly, trying to look as submissive as possible. Did you know I lied on my resume before you hired me? Who cares, Becky? Everything is fine with us. Great for me, great for Roger, and I might add, great for you too. But you knew this when you hired me? Of course I knew, Ken said, but now it does not matter anymore. I knew that the police had already received the necessary evidence, and it was time for the second part of the plan. Ken, it was so hard for me. You know I never wanted this. I never wanted intimacy. Oh, Becky, forget it. I think you have learned to have fun. You told yourself that you liked it when I spanked your bottom, and now you want to come back for another round. But I kept telling you I wanted to stop. You and Roger kept saying this would end soon. Well, this definitely will not end now. You will be happy to be back. I know you love my plus size. I heard a noise outside the door, but Ken did not seem to notice. He was too busy bragging about his behavior. By the way, I think I want to have some fun to seal the deal. Close the door, honey, and come here. I jumped up. I hoped the noise outside the door was the police, but if not, I was ready to run out of the room. Fortunately, as I approached the door, the police opened it. I stepped back and stared at Ken. You, Ken. I screamed. Today, I had you wrapped around my little finger, and for the first time, it brought me real pleasure. I heard Ken making excuses as he was taken out of the office, insisting that he had done nothing wrong, and that I was just a girl of easy virtue who liked everything. I ran out into the street. Jim was standing in the parking lot behind a police van. I ran up to him and hugged him tightly. This is the end, I said, breathless. Over Jim's shoulder, I saw Ken and Roger being placed in separate police cars. Their faces expressed a mixture of anger and confusion. Now they will get what they deserve. We got them, Jim. We got them. We were still hugging. Did you hear? Did you hear what he said? This arrogant man has completely betrayed himself and even got Roger involved. I heard every word. That night, I took Becky to a restaurant, and we celebrated the victory. Becky was excited and in high spirits, but my mood was more subdued. I was glad that Ken and Roger would get what they deserved, but I knew I was at a crossroads. I had to make decisions about the future of our marriage. When we got home, Becky offered herself to me, intimacy. I think she hoped that the euphoria of the day would carry over into our bedroom and that this would help us restore our closeness. But I refused. I saw that my depressed mood puzzled her. I headed to the kitchen, opened the pantry, took out dog food, and poured it into Max's bowl. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and watched Max eat greedily. After a while, I heard Becky's footsteps and raised my head. Jim, it is over. I know there is more trial and litigation ahead of us, but can you and I, put this behind us? I just looked at her without saying anything. Becky's face was blank. She just stared into my eyes. I remained silent and saw tears begin to form in her eyes. She began to understand that this was not the end for me. We sat at the table without saying a word. I think she decided to give me space because, at some point, she simply got up from the table and silently went into the bedroom. That night, I thought for a long time about everything that had happened. Becky lied on her resume, and her bosses took advantage of it. I wanted to understand and forgive, but Becky had put herself in this situation and then agreed to spend the night with them to get out of this mess. I tried to understand why she could do such a thing, something I found unforgivable. These thoughts ran through my head over and over again. It was Thursday, just 3 weeks ago. My life had been turned upside down. I tried to look at everything from different angles, the good and the bad. I imagined what life would be like if I made one decision or another. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I drank a large glass of whiskey, hoping it would help me sleep. It did calm my mind a bit, and soon I felt tired and went to bed. Becky, good morning. It was 9 in the morning on a workday. I had gotten up around 7, but Becky did not have to work and had slept in. She went to the coffee maker and poured herself a cup of coffee. Are you taking another day off? She asked. I did not answer but just looked at her as she sat down at the table. Becky took a sip of coffee and gave me a surprised look. "Becky, we need to talk." She almost dropped her cup on the table. There was fear in her eyes. "Jim, we are moving forward. Please be patient. I beg you." "Becky," I said, "I thought about the situation for a long time after you went to bed. I do not see my opinion changing over time." I paused, and we looked into each other's eyes. I saw tears welling in her eyes. I felt tears come to my own, and I could not utter the words at first. Then I said, "I have decided that we need a divorce." "Oh God, no, Jim, please." Becky's lips began to tremble, and I noticed how her hands started to shake. "I know that I am not without fault. I am so sorry for what happened and for what I did. But those people set me up." There was a pleading expression on her face. "I should not have been intimate with them, but I did it to protect my career. So we could save money faster, buy a house, and start having children. You know, this was our plan." "That is enough, Becky. You had all these plans, and look where they got us. You tried to control everything, and for that, you were ready to sacrifice your integrity, maybe not your soul, but definitely your body." "I am still not sure," I said. "You did not enjoy spending the night with your bosses. Maybe Ken really made you feel pleasure, as I heard when he found you that evening." "No, Jim, I was just stroking his ego so that he would finish faster," she cried bitterly. "Even if that is the case, you still gave them your body for financial gain, and this makes you a woman of easy virtue." Becky screamed loudly and said something incoherent. She shook her head from side to side, and tears streamed down her face. "Becky, you slept with these people at least once a week, maybe more often." "I do not know. This went on for almost 2 years. This means that during our marriage, another man was with you about 100 times. I am glad we do not have children yet. We are still young. We can both start over. We can both meet someone else and move forward. I am sorry. I know it sounds cold, but after what you did, I just cannot imagine you being the mother of my children." Tears streamed down Becky's face, but she nodded in agreement as if she understood. She knew me, and despite all the pain this would bring us, she understood that I had made a decision. There was simply no way for us to move forward as a couple. She lowered her head onto the table and began to cry. I got up from the table and headed to the guest room to collect the rest of my things. I woke up early and had already packed my car. Becky looked up as I appeared in the kitchen doorway. We were silent for some time. "I will call you soon, and we will discuss what needs to be done. I love you, Becky. I think, in some way, I will always love you." At first, I was very angry, but now I was just hurt. I knew that she was suffering too. We do not have much property, so our divorce should be easy. Let us agree on an amicable divorce and move on with our lives. Becky looked at me with a sad expression on her face but did not say anything. I walked out of the kitchen into the living room. Max was lying on the sofa. I scratched his ears and then leaned down and pressed my face to his. "Thank you for being there when I needed you, Max." I got up and left the house, and with it, our marriage. It was all over. Only formalities remained. Over the next few weeks, Becky and I spoke on the phone several times. We negotiated a quick divorce through a lawyer, a man Bob recommended. When I talked to Bob, he warned me that if we divorced now, all the money from the lawsuit would go to Becky. I did not care. I just wanted to move on. For me, revenge in the form of the arrests of Ken and Roger was enough. Without dispute on either side, the divorce was finalized in 60 days. I felt relieved, but the sadness did not leave me for several more months. I kept thinking about how much good we had and wished Becky had made different decisions. Lying on her resume was a huge mistake, but agreeing to be intimate with Ken was an even bigger one. In her desire to control everything and build an ideal life, she made rash decisions. It hurt not only us but others as well. I am sure her parents were shocked that I could not believe Becky would humiliate herself like that, but I never talked to them about it. Later, I read on the internet that Ken and Roger had received prison sentences. In addition to Becky's testimony and the police recordings, the head of human resources at Hartford testified that they had reviewed Becky's resume before hiring her and knew it was fraudulent. Roger paid the HR employee a hush bonus. It seems that he received immunity for cooperating with the investigation. Ken was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and Roger received 3 years. I think they will serve about half of their sentences. Ken was not married, but Roger had been married for 26 years. His wife divorced him and received most of his share of the company. About 6 months after the incident, Hartford settled the lawsuit with Becky. I would not have even known about it if I had not received a certified letter with a check from Becky for $800,000. She included a note with the check. She wrote that she had returned to Kansas City and, after a course of therapy, realized how much pain she had caused me. She apologized, saying that she had mistakenly put her life and plans ahead of the love we had in our marriage. Her desire to control everything became her downfall. She wrote that, in the future, she would try to live one day at a time. I could not believe she had decided to give me half of her settlement, but she wrote that I deserved at least that much, maybe more. It took me a while to start dating again. About a year after our divorce, I met a girl through mutual friends, and we started dating. We have been together for a couple of months now. I am not sure yet if I am ready to truly love again, but I want a family, and I am sure that over time, this will happen. For now, it is just me and my trusty new golden retriever, Sally. Please subscribe to our channel so that your love never betrays you. And go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you are under 18, please do not watch the next story. Click to the next one.